With the 50 caliber M2 Browning machine gun, John Browning completed the trifecta of America's light, medium, and heavy machine guns of World War II. The M2 was similar in design to the M1919, but used a much larger 50 caliber cartridge, developed at the same time as the gun. The M2 was created to address a need identified by commanders during World War I. The military needed a gun that could punch through the enemy's heavily armored vehicles and aircraft. The M2, also called the Ma-Deuce, served that need in various roles. In addition to being an infantry support weapon, it was an anti-aircraft gun on some ships, as well as on the ground. It also served as the primary or secondary weapon on many armored ground vehicles, and a light barrel version was used on aircraft. The Ma-Deuce can also serve as a sniper rifle. During the Vietnam War, U.S. Marine Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock II would use a scope-mounted M2 to kill the Viet Cong from 2,500 yards away, almost 1.5 miles. But most infantrymen were not carrying machine guns. During World War II, they were carrying the weapon that General George S. Patton, Jr. called the greatest battle implement ever devised, the M1 Garand. Often called simply the Garand or the M1, the rifle was designed by John Garand at the Springfield Armory. The M1 Garand was the first semi-automatic weapon to serve as the standard issue infantry arm in any country in the world. U.S. soldiers and Marines carrying it had a distinct advantage over their enemies, firing .30-06 cartridges out of an 8-round clip at a much faster rate than the standard bolt-action rifles. The M1 Garand usually had a 10 or 16-inch bayonet attached, making it an even more formidable weapon. Making the rifle even more versatile, the M7 rifle grenade launcher could attach to the Garand to fire grenades. Tube-shaped, the M7 fit over the barrel of the Garand. A blank cartridge was loaded into the rifle. When fired, the rapidly expanding gas from the blank cartridge would launch the grenade hundreds of yards. The M1 Garand was the standard service rifle in World War II, but was not the appropriate arm for soldiers with specialized duties. A machine gun or mortar team, for example, was already heavily burdened. A lighter gun would be less cumbersome and better allow them to perform their duties, but handguns lacked the firepower needed when they were attacked. During World War II, German blitzkrieg attacks against strategic targets could also put headquarters staff and officers, as well as support units, into sudden combat. The solution needed was a lightweight automatic rifle. The U.S. Army looked at a dozen submitted designs in 1941 and finally selected a model submitted by Winchester, the M1 Carbine. The 5-pound, 7-ounce M1 Carbine fired a .30 caliber pistol round with an effective range of about 200 yards. A later model, the M1A1, added a folding metal wire stock, making it an excellent firearm for paratroopers.
The M1 Carbine is an extremely portable, handy weapon, very lightweight, and it fires a .30 caliber pistol cartridge. It takes a great little box magazine here, holds 20 rounds. It operates on the short stroke piston developed by a North Carolinian named David Williams. It's an extremely effective weapon. It was developed in direct response to German blitzkrieg tactics.
The U.S., with all of the industrial power it held, certainly saw the value in mass-produced weapons. In the early years of the war, the Thompson submachine gun was widely used. The U.S. paratroopers and Ranger battalions in Europe found it particularly effective in special operations. Meanwhile, in the Pacific theater, the Marines used the Thompson to a limited degree and generally preferred the BAR rifle's power. The U.S. military sought a replacement for the Thompson, something lighter and easier to manufacture. The .45 caliber M3 submachine gun satisfied those demands. Weighing just over 8 pounds, the gun could fire 450 rounds per minute with a higher degree of accuracy than the Thompson. It was stamped out in a shape similar to a mechanic's tool, which led to its nicknames, the grease gun or just the greaser. Production delays prevented the M3 from seeing much action during World War II. But it, and a later development, the M3A1, would be used a decade later in the Korean War.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help us produce more compelling historical content like this, please like, comment below, and share this video with fellow history buffs. And of course, be sure to subscribe to help keep history happening.